All right. Welcome, One Lifers, to the One Life podcast. And these chit chats, these sit downs are with One Life masters, people who are well on their way, and One Life community members who are out there making a difference. And this is a special interview because Diego Corzo, our guest today, is someone who, if there was anybody who could epitomize the what it meant to be a One Lifer, Diego really not only talks the talk, but goes out there and walks the walk. He's someone who, we'll get into a story, but has become a real estate investor, has been able to leave the corporate world and become financially free in his 20s. Are you in your 30s yet?
I just turned 28 about a week ago.
So he's in his 28, working on financial freedom, and is now had so much success that he's able to turn around and teach people how to do those same things. And so thank you so much for spending the time today to talk with the One Lifers, Diego.
For sure, Hector. Very excited to be here and always happy to help and connect with the One Life community.
You know, I think it would be kind of valuable for us to, let's start in the middle a little bit. And you found kind of the M1, the One Life, the Go Abundance community, and that kind of set you on a trajectory that allowed you to quit your corporate job, that allowed you to build real wealth, that allowed you to own multiple properties, and now become this influencer that's able to impact and give back to a ton of people. But let's go back to the beginning and where, if you could think about like where the story begins for Diego and where kind of that journey begins. It probably wasn't, you know, when you flipped your first house, but where does that start, and where do you think some of these lessons started to occur for you as an individual?
Yeah, the main thing for me, I mean, is this so my path to financial freedom and to be aware of all the dreams and what I wanted to achieve, which is like taking the actions. It started for me when I was 21 years old, and I read the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That book basically taught me that there's two ways that people make money. You can either trade your time for money, or you can make your money work for you. And I read that when I was in college. So I was just like beginning to see what I wanted to achieve in my life, where I wanted to go. And then I've always been a big, since I'm an immigrant, for me, I've always wanted to achieve the so-called American dream. And I just set a goal when I was 21 years old that by age 35, I wanted to own 10 properties. Because all of this just happened while I was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. So it just like gave me some knowledge that I'd never heard before. And then I just tried, and I just began really taking action as much as I could to achieve that goal.
And you touched on it a little bit, and I know that it's a big part of your message and why you're so passionate, is the fact that you're not an American citizen. And we, a lot of times, maybe take living in America for granted. And I've heard you talk about, you know, some of the gifts and the blessings that come along with living in America. So for you, you were not allowed to do a lot of the normal things that most Americans kind of get to do. I know you shared some of those when you were speaking at the Philly conference. Can you talk about early on in your life how being, you know, kind of when you learned that you were going to have to get creative with how you achieved your goal?
Yeah.
You're going to get, you know, find the solution.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll just start with this. So I came to the United States from Lima, Peru when I was 9 years old. And my story starts when my dad told me, he said, Diego, this is the land of opportunity, but it is up to you to find that opportunity. And that always stayed in my mind as knowing, okay, if I wanted to achieve this American dream, it was just a matter of time, just because I saw this as the land of opportunity. So we became undocumented. After we stayed here, we overstayed our visas, but it didn't really hit me what it meant to be undocumented until I turned 15 or 16, and I wanted to get my driver's license, and I found out that I couldn't get it because I wasn't American. And at that point, that's when I realized that my life was going to be a little bit different when comparing myself to my friends. I was going to go through a few more obstacles to get to where I wanted to be, right? Whether it's extracurricular activities, hanging out with friends and stuff like that. But what I did, instead of saying, oh my gosh, I cannot work, I cannot do what I want to do, I decided to just go all out on my studies. And that helped me graduate third in my high school class. That later got me to enter and get accepted at Florida State University. And as I was one of the obstacles, right, was that as I was graduating high school, I began applying to all these scholarships and student financing and student loans. And I found out that I couldn't get anything because I wasn't American. And they always said, hey, Diego, you won this scholarship, you won this $3,000 or $5,000, but before we give it to you, we need to see either your green card or that you're American. And unfortunately, I didn't have anything. So I couldn't afford that. What I was able to do is I was able to have enough money to pay myself my first year in college. And I figured that I could get a job working as a software developer, or like just doing websites, right? Because that's what I wanted to study. But I also found that after volunteering at this nonprofit, they wanted to hire me. And they said, Diego, we see all your paperwork, we're just missing your work authorization. And that's when I also found out that I couldn't work because I didn't have that. So at the age of 20, by the age of 19, 20 years old, I found myself not being able to work legally, drive, and get student loans to continue on my pursuit of what I call back then my American dream. But I did whatever I had to do, like one of the things that I did find as an opportunity was to open my own company. So I created an LLC, and I began doing websites for small businesses and nonprofits. And it was just me and my bike and just driving everywhere in the heat, but I was able to make it happen no matter what. Because that's been a big philosophy that I've had in my life, has been that life happens for me, not to me. And having that mindset always helps me find different opportunities, have the mindset that there's always a way on what I want to achieve. And that's what actually helped me be able to graduate top 1% of my class without any student loans, which back then was super hard, but it became a blessing in disguise because I was able to start later with, like, when I compare to my friends now, they may have $50,000 in student debt, but I had zero.
One thing that I think really struck me along the way is that you were constantly looking for solutions. People, they hit challenges, and a lot of times they kind of throw up their hands and maybe they start to blame, and maybe they give up. So, what do you think helped you to keep persisting despite all of these challenges? You talked about kind of the American dream and really wanting to achieve that. So, when we talk about one life, dream it, plan it, live it. What was your dream, and what was kind of that vision that you were going towards?
Yeah, for me, the main, like, the mindset that I had during those obstacles has been that it is not I can't, but it's how can I do it, right? So when I was having that obstacle of, hey, like, you cannot work, I was like, okay, I went to the nonprofit and I was like, how can we make this work? And I was able to get them to create a scholarship just for me so that it can go through the university so that I can get paid that way for the work that I was doing, right? So it's always that mentality of, if the door of opportunity is closed, I just go through the window. And having in the dream it, plan it, and living my best life, for me, it starts with the mindset and knowing that I have to be happy with the life that I have as I build the life of my dreams. And that has been changing in the coming years or months, really, because as I begin to analyze, okay, where do I want to be? Where do I want to get to in the next 5 years or next year, stuff like that, there's different parts in my story or in my life that takes me in a different way of now not just focusing on my work, but really more helping people. And that's where I'm going now. But I'm a big believer in surrounding yourself with like-minded people, because I feel like that is what has helped me achieve what I've been able to achieve, connecting myself to One Life. I've been involved in this community since 2014, and it has been amazing for me, just meeting Tim and everybody that's in the One Life community. They, like, I get to speak with them with what I want to achieve, and then they hold me accountable. So it's having that peer group that set life at a higher standard that has helped me achieve what I've been able to achieve.
Yeah. So although it's not all One Life, can you talk about what happened, after you started to surround yourself with those people and started to raise your expectations, or, raise the level of what your expectations are? What started to happen both in your life, maybe in your habits? I mean, maybe this is the time where we start to talk about kind of your real estate career, but what was that shift, and what did that look like for you as you were going through it?
For me, what like surrounding myself with like-minded people, for me, that gave me the permission, or allowed me to see what is possible, right? I began to get involved with the GoBundance community, and having them as my mentors allowed me to see, okay, they've been able to achieve what they achieved of becoming millionaires, financially free, having the life of their dreams. If they've been able to achieve that in 10 years or 15 or 20 years, I may be able to achieve that in a lot less, right? Because I've always had the mindset that success leaves clues, and seeing them as my example, then it was a matter of time of me just taking the action and knowing that it's going to come to me sooner or later. And for me, that meant at that time that I had to leave my corporate job because I had a salary. And no matter how many hours I worked, no matter what I did, I was always going to get paid the same. So I decided to transition to becoming a full-time realtor so that I could really be paid on my efforts. And I tripled my income 2 years after becoming a full-time agent. So it's been quite a ride, and I've always been able to live below my means and use the extra money that I had to invest it in real estate. And for me, one of the quotes that has helped me be always focused with what I want to achieve was said by a guy named Adam Carroll, who said, you have to build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle. And when I heard that quote, it allowed me to see the way that my other friends were building their life, which was with, hey, are you going to get the new iPhone? Or, hey, I'm going to get the 60-inch TV, where I saw, like, I don't even have a TV that I call my own. So it really, like, it's just prioritizing where I wanted to be in the future, and my mastermind group in that sense setting the example for me.
Powerful. I wrote that down. Build a bigger life, not a bigger lifestyle. So let's talk about your particular vehicle, which you chose real estate as your way to financial freedom. And there are lots of, I don't want to say maybe lots, but there are various ways that you can get the various vehicles. Why did you choose real estate, and why has that been something that not only did you choose, but you've been passionate about now teaching and helping other people achieve financial freedom through this vehicle?
Yeah, like you said, there are a lot of ways, right? There's the stock market, there is products, there's online. I just chose real estate because it was the first book that I read with Rich Dad Poor Dad. He mentioned a lot of examples. It was something that I could literally ride my bike and see homes everywhere, or drive my car, right, and see homes everywhere. So it was something that I could touch. And then I was like, I am paying rent somewhere, so I might as well own something and call it my own. And what I did is I started with the strategy called house hacking. And this is something that I think a lot of millennials can do to achieve financial freedom in the future. What that is basically buying a single family home and living with roommates, or buying a multifamily like a duplex, triplex, or quadplex and living on one side while you rent out the others. And what that does is that reduces your housing expenses so that you can continue to save money and deploy it for other investment vehicles. That's what I did, but it's also what my mentors were doing. I just use the examples. And funny thing is, like out of the 150 guys that are in GoBundance, probably 80% of them started with house hacking at some point. So it was like they were the ones that have done it, and I'm just taking action on that too. But the main key thing is understanding that you can still buy a home if you live in it. You can qualify for a loan with low money down. A lot of people think that you need 20%, but really I bought my house with 5% down, and I've helped people as a realtor buy homes with zero money down. And then they're living for free. And then all of a sudden they can have all the money that they were spending on rent. They can save it and travel, go to Europe, go to Australia, or save it for passive income more in the future.
Mm. I want to get into a couple of things. I want to go back to, you mentioned something just briefly, but a lot of people in the One Life community want to make that leap from the corporate world to running their own business or being self-employed or living life on their own terms. However, I also know that after running my own business for almost a decade, that there is not, a lot of people don't always, they see the glamour, but they don't see the kind of the grime that comes along with it. You just touched on it lightly, that you picked real estate because you could get there without needing to drive. Can you talk? I know you shared a story about how you got to your appointments because you couldn't drive. So what was your solution, or what was your way of getting through the window, as you like to say?
Yeah, I mean, this was back when I was in college, but it was at that point the DACA program wasn't established yet. So I was still working as a contractor doing websites for small businesses. And I was in Florida, and over there it's like 97 degrees in the summer. It's like 100 degrees in the summer. So I had set up an appointment around noon, and unfortunately I couldn't get there any other way than riding my bike. So it was at that point where I could either make excuses, oh, it's too hot, or I should cancel the appointment, or actually go out there and fight for my dreams, right? And actually go and do it. So what I did is I put a towel in my backpack, put a suit in my backpack, and then I rode my bike. I parked it in the back of the building, dried off, got changed, and then walked to the front of the building. But it was those decisions, right, that I believe have set me apart, because I've always been able to do the hard work. Like, I always know it takes me back to the times where as a kid, I would see my parents working 12, 14, 16-hour days every single day for weeks on end without taking a day off, right? And I'm like, crap, if they can do that, I can definitely ride my bike in the heat. So it's like a lot of the stuff that I've done is because of the example that my parents have set for me.
So powerful. I just thought that was a great story that a lot of people would probably enjoy, because I know that we've all been there. So let's dive into kind of the house hacking model, or the house hacking method. And I love the fact that you just opened my mind, because so many millennials, so many young people are not looking to you know, they would just pay rent with a bunch of roommates instead of, I love that idea of owning the house and then renting out the rest of it. It's just so simple, but why not do it if you're young? So take me through your system, or take me through your process, or what are kind of the key tenets or philosophies that go along with your house hacking model?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the benefits, and I just want to say like what it has done for me is that since I bought my first house hack when I was 24 years old. And since that moment, I haven't had to pay a mortgage payment, and their rent payment actually also covered my car payment. So since the age of 24 and I'm 28 now, I've never paid a mortgage payment from my pocket or a car payment. So that is powerful because it has allowed me to live a life where rent payment or living expenses is really not a problem, right? It's like, it doesn't even like, it's not like it gets paid by other people. And that's the end goal. The end goal is to get all of your living expenses and food, fun, whatever. The idea is to get all your expenses paid by assets. When you do that, you become financially free. And that has been the main thing that I like teaching to millennials, is using the house hacking strategy and knowing that it's not something that you'll get rich or you become a millionaire in your first year or second year. But if you do this and you stick to the strategy for like 5 or 6 years, you can definitely become like me, where now I own 10 rental properties and I'm only 28. And I did it while working a full-time job. I did it while with all the obstacles that I've had. So it's totally doable. You just have to stick to the plan. And the first way to start is by setting up your team. So what I would recommend is find an investor-friendly realtor, because you want to do that because they're the ones that have the knowledge of the different areas of the different yes, they just know what a good property would look like. That's why I mentioned investor, because they also know what areas may be becoming more popular because they have also invested in the past. When you work with an investor-friendly realtor, you also get to use their resources, right? So their handyman, their contractors, all of that stuff. Maybe they have a property management company that they use. So you want to make sure that you leverage their network. The next step is, after you find your realtor, is to get a loan officer. You can talk to banks, you can talk to a credit union, and be able to see what you can afford. There are multiple programs. You can get an FHA loan, which is qualifying, putting down 3.5%. You can get a conventional loan, putting down 3 or 5%. And if you're a VA, if you're in the military, you can qualify for a VA loan, which is 0% down. So what this means is that here in Austin, I was able to buy my property that was $170K with less than $10,000, and boom, I was living for free. So having that mentality that you don't really need much money, and you can buy a property and start living for free, definitely clears up, definitely sets you up for success in the future. And the best thing is that you can qualify for up to 4 different owner-occupant homes. You just have to move to the next home once a year or every 2 years. So this allows you to be able to just put another 10 down or put another 15,000 down in a year and a half and buy another property. And then you have the choice to rent out the master bedroom where you were living or the other unit and get paid even more. So my first property is now, I'm making around $1,000 a month just in that one property after the mortgage is paid and everything. So that definitely buys you the opportunity to build on your passive income.
My mind's exploding. So we have set up the team, and then was there some other steps in there that I just missed and spaced out on? What would you say the next step after you have your team is? Is that when you start looking for?
Yeah. So the main step is to the first thing, right? You set up you find your investor friendly realtor and your loan officer. After that, you get pre-qualified for a loan. And once you do that, you begin to look at homes. Because this way now you know how much you can afford. So then what you do is you want to buy a property. If you're going to be house hacking, you want to buy a property that's either near a university. If you want to rent to students, sometimes that's a benefit because their student loans are going to be paying for the rent, or their parents. The other thing is, if you buy a home near corporations, you're probably going to get the young people that are working around there. So for me, when I bought my property, I've had roommates that work at Apple, Intel, GM, just where I was working, Samsung, Dell. So I have all those corporations around the house that I bought. And what's great about that is that these companies are also, they have employees that are making good money. And then they also do the background checks. And one of the things that I do after, let's say I look at a home, I negotiate the deal, go through inspections and close it, I also find roommates through Craigslist or applications like Roomster. But I run a background check on everybody. It's a criminal background check and a credit check, just for the safety of myself, the roommates, and even for the people that are applying, so that they know that they're going to live in a house with good quality roommates.
So powerful. So I really like the idea about going towards schools and corporations because they've done the vetting for them. So let's talk about this. What type of person would be good for this? You know, I feel like we can get into the nuts and bolts, and you actually have a program that teaches people the ABCs, and I know that you have a Facebook group where people can get free content from. But what type of person, or is there a type of person that you feel thrives or can really do well in an industry like this?
Yeah, I mean, if they want to be house hacking, here's the best part. You can do, as long as you qualify for a loan in your area, it is good for anybody, right? Because even if you're starting with a young family, you can still live in a duplex, live on one side and rent out the other, right? And all you need is, depending on how much prices are in your area, you can buy a house with 10, 15, or 20,000. You can be a teacher. I've helped people that are working in corporate America, because all of this with house hacking, you can do it on your free time. You do not need to be house hacking full time. You can get roommates because like most of your tenants are also going to be working, right? So if people want to see a room that's vacant, they're probably going to look at it after work or during their lunch, and that's when you're usually available too. Anybody that has a W-2 job, this is ideal because the banks love W-2 employees when they have to qualify. So really, teacher, software developers. I helped a guy who he was in the Army and he got a VA loan. So putting zero money down, and now he's living and renting out to other people in the Army. He's living for free, and the Army also gives him a stipend for his living expenses. So he's like house hacking and hacking the VA loan program too. So really, it can be for anybody. You just really have to be okay with sacrificing a little, because some people will say, hey dude, I really don't want to live with other people. And I'm like, that's fine. You can buy a multifamily, because some people don't like living with roommates if that's more affordable in your area. But if you don't sacrifice in the beginning, you're going to live the same life that 95% of the population are living, because they're not willing to do things different, right? There's a quote by Dave Ramsey that says, if you live for 2 years like most people don't, you live for the rest of your life like most people won't. So I've been house hacking now, and I can tell you that now with the 10 properties that I have, I'm sort of like not 100% financially independent, but really much I'm there. So I don't really have to work for money. Now everything that I do is for just like to help other people because I love it, which is a great position to be in. But I've paid already the sacrifices, right? I've done the the things in the beginning that were hard, the things that my roommates were, my friends and my coworkers were like, Diego, why are you living like that? Or why don't you get a new car when obviously you can afford it? It's like, well, because I'm here to like make the decisions that I can in my 20s, so that I don't really have to work in my 30s if I don't want to. And now I know for sure that when I get to my 30s, money is not going to be an issue, but it's because I made those sacrifices in my 20s.
This is great stuff. So we've been talking now for almost, well, over a half hour, which is great. And so you have recently started to take all of the lessons, all of the things that you've learned, and started to share those with other people. And you have a group called the House Hacking Club, right?
Yeah.
Even a program that people can learn this in depth. Can you talk a little bit about what you've been doing with this group, and maybe you want to share some other stories of what people are getting out of the program?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I created House Hacking Club because I got a lot of people that were asking me, hey, Diego, I see that you're investing in real estate and you're 23, 24. How do I get started? And I've had so many people through the years that I'm like, hey, I'm just going to create a couple of quick videos. And then I started creating a course. But I first started by a Facebook group, and now it has around 300 people, which is awesome. And there are people from all over the United States and even the world. And it's all about teaching them how to invest in real estate as a millennial or just anybody, but through house hacking in particular. But it's all about teaching mindset. It's all about knowing that life is a marathon, not a sprint. And now I also created a course, and that course walks them through 5 different modules. So module number 1 is getting the mindset right. Module number 2 is creating your team. Module number 3 is the home buying process. Module number 4 is determining the right location and properties. And module number 5 is creating passive income. So taking them through the entire process. And the best part is I've had friends that are now buying their second or third properties through, as they've been house hacking through the years, which is awesome because now it's like they have options. At the end of the day, money doesn't buy you happiness, but it buys you options. And that's what I want the people in the house hacking community to have. So if they want to learn more, there's like a free ebook and a free book and a free tutorial video if they go to househackingclub.com.
We'll make sure that gets linked up in the show notes and goes out with everything. Diego, are you? I believe you're in our One Life Mighty Networks community, right? Our kind of new online learning platform. I believe I've seen your name poking around there. If not, we're going to be posting all of this stuff in there, and we'd love for you to, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'd love for you to share any of the content in there, because what's great is there's opportunities to have little mini courses and a place to host blogs, and I think it's a really great place to learn. So cool. The rest of you guys, I would encourage you guys to sign up. We'll make sure that is in there. It's a free spot to learn, and it's like a Facebook group, but on steroids, without all of the crazy nonsense that goes along with Facebook. And cool. It's a really cool platform. So where should you said househackingclub.com, is that what it is?
Yeah, they can go to househackingclub.com, or they can also send me an email to info@Diego Corzo if they want to learn more. I'll be more than happy to share or answer any questions they may have.
So if you guys are not in the One Life Mighty Network, go join it. We'll put all of this info in there and connect with Diego as well. But any last thoughts, Diego, before we sign off and get the people back to living their one life fully lived?
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you very much for the One Life team. I mean, I've been a big supporter of this community. I've been speaking at their events. I volunteer, and the best part that they have now is in all of the events that they're doing for the students, right? The next generation that's coming up. So I am very excited to continue sharing my story with them and to inspire them and teach them about goal setting and all of this other stuff. So it's really like, I'm very happy that this community is now taking that approach. And anytime that people have questions, happy to help.
I love it. Well, go get in the One Life Mighty Network, connect with Diego, househackingclub.com, and we will see you on the next interview of the One Life podcast. See you later, guys.